So mark the day for today. It is 12th of December 2020 and by God's grace, it is officially the new launch date of my podcast. Is Pharmacology Difficult? I am Dr. Radhika Vijay, MBBS MD Pharmacology. I belong to Bikaner, Rajasthan, India, and with a view to help out and share my teachings and learnings with all the students, learners and curious listeners for the subject pharmacology all around. So this is the launch episode. This is the first episode after the trailer. And do you know anything about the history of pharmacology? Do you actually know what is pharmacology? Well, you'll get all these answers and much more information in the episode coming up. So let's get started. For all the new uploads and much more resources, to sign up for my free newsletter, you should go to www.ispharmacologydifficult.com. Now, history is actually history. Prehistorically, people used plants, herbs, and a lot of crude drugs and medicines and substances to cure their ailments and to get rid of whatever pain or whatever disease they used to have. Out of these crude drugs or medicines that were used, though some are still used till date because they have their proven benefit, but most of them were harmful. It was a very strong belief in the olden era that diseases were a product of excess of bile and blood in the body. Well, that was an old belief, a sort of a superstition you can call, and it really had no sort of scientific claim or scientific theory behind this. Gradually, people started to have belief in observations, in a scientific attitude, and that's what led to the evolution of the subject pharmacology. It actually changed the schools of thought. People believed in having some basis to support their school of thought, and that was the really scientific approach that slowly clouded on over the superstitions and baseless thoughts. In the 18th century, in the British continent, experiments started, and that led to the basis of the literature for the subject pharmacology. What came into evolution was the first literature reference, a sort of a book you can call, and famously turned out to be Materia Medica. It contained all the methods and the use of different drugs. What were the drug preparations? That also you get to know from Materia Medica. But still something was lacking of the purifying agents, some basic hypothesis that really couldn't prove the basic mechanism of action of drugs. So that had to be discovered, that had to be laid foundation. So things were getting serious and scientific day by day. Pioneers to the development of methods to study the drug effects. Let me list their names. In the 18th and 19th century, the pioneering was done by Francois Magendie, and one of his students was Claude Bernard. They did several experiments in experimental pharmacology and pharmacology. The name of Rudolf Buchem was glorified because he led the development of a pharmacological laboratory in his home only, around in 1847 in Germany. Oswald Schimmelberg was named as the father of the subject pharmacology. Should I repeat? Oswald Schimmelberg was named as the father of pharmacology. He propounded many fundamentals in this wonderful subject along with his colleagues, and they also have a big list that I'm not giving you at present. And then further in 18th, 19th and 20th century came revolutionary changes to study the mechanism of drug action that is still going on. Now that is the historical brief of this particular subject. History has no end. History is never ending. But that was a very short brief of this particular subject. Now, let me tell you about the term pharmacology. Let us get to know in this episode what is pharmacology. Now, pharmacology, if you break the term, pharmakon in Greek means drug and logos means science or study. In broader sense, it's a study of the substances, molecules interacting with the living system via a lot of chemical processes and simply by binding to the regulatory molecules. This leads to either stimulation or inhibition of the body processes. So in very brief, we can say a study which tells us how the drugs can affect, how the drugs can alter physiological biochemical functions of the living organisms, both humans and animals. Now, pharmacology is one branch, but it encompasses a lot of other biomedical branches, something like physiology, biochemistry, and nonetheless, clinical medicine also. By covering such a vast area of knowledge, it also deals in the clinical application of drugs. It covers the drug use, the drug effects. Let's finally come to a definition. What is pharmacology? A science, a branch of science dealing with the mechanism of action, therapeutic uses, adverse effects. In very short, the fate of drugs in the human beings or animals can be defined as pharmacology. Well, I've talked about pharmacology, but you might have noticed the regular repetitive use of another term called drug. So the whole discussion leaves us with a query of one question again. What is a drug? Well, this question needs another episode because this one will only cover the historical brief and the definition of pharmacology. Hope your initial quest of this particular subject is resolved and you are charged enough to dive deeper into this vast sea of knowledge. You can find all the new uploaded episodes on www.ispharmacologydifficult.com, where you can sign up for my free newsletter also. It's a monthly newsletter and full of a lot of updates, knowledge, and some updates about my podcast. And you can also follow me on different social media handles like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Insta. Well, if you're here for the first time, then consider subscribing and following. Do like, subscribe, and share. Leave your comments, rates, and reviews on iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Stay safe, stay happy, stay enlightened.